Hello everybody, it's me Scoop, and I am really excited for MaXXXine. Now before MaXXXine comes out, we're about a week and a half away, something like that, I need to go back and watch X and Pearl. I really don't know all that much about these movies besides the fact people really like them. Especially Pearl, it was like a TikTok meme or something. So because Pearl was a TikTok meme, I'm more expecting a thinks it's deep movie that isn't really all that deep, but I am willing to give these movies the benefit of the doubt. The trailers for the third and final film, MaXXXine, look really good. So I finally decided to watch X and Pearl, and I really cut it down to the wire, watching X the last day it was on Netflix, and finishing it at midnight. And watching it that late was 100% worth it, because I actually really liked X. It was very interesting, but I do have some complicated thoughts on it. While not the greatest slasher film I've ever seen, it was really entertaining and really unique and a great entry into a genre I love. From the very first frame of X, cinematographer Elliot Rocket gets to flex his massive cinematography muscles by providing us with one of the greatest opening shots I have ever seen. As the cop car pulls up, it draws our attention in, and the shot uses the barn doors to frame a widescreen shot as a 4:3 aspect ratio that the snuff films it's making homage to would usually use. And when we pull through the doors of the barn, we see more cop cars already present, amplifying the intensity and severity of the situation. What a phenomenal way to start a film. This high-quality cinematography, as well as the editing, is kept up throughout the whole movie, and it really goes to show you how important this stuff is when it's done right. Lame cinematography probably won't break a movie, but really good cinematography can absolutely make a movie. So the cops pull up, and they're looking around at the bloodbath we're about to see later in the film, but they pay specific attention to the barn. We don't get to see what's in there, but it's hinted at that it's much bigger than anything else going on around them. So at this point in the video, I would just like to add that I'm recording and writing this video in two different parts. I've just watched X, I wrote the script for this review, and I'm now filming it, obviously. And when I'm done, I'm gonna go watch Pearl and do the same thing and combine these together into one video. And the reason I'm telling you that is because I've never been so confused by the paratext of a film before. That is the most film major shit I have ever said. But it's really true. For those of you who don't know what paratext is, it's the stuff that comes surrounding a movie that can still impact your experience, including things like the synopsis, the posters, the trailer, possible sequels and prequels, all that sort of jazz. So like I said earlier, the only things I knew about X going into the movie is that it has a prequel, Pearl, focused on an old lady in X, and I didn't really know what role she had. I kind of assumed she had something to do with the killings if she got a prequel where she's also killing people, but you never really know for sure. I knew Mia Goth played the main character MaXXXine as well as the old lady Pearl and plays young Pearl in the prequel. And I know that the sequel MaXXXine from its trailers is heavily hinting that MaXXXine is some sort of satanic killer known as the Night Stalker. Now that I've finished X, I am horribly confused. So the thing in the barn I figured would come in during the climax of the movie. It was somehow bigger than all the other dead bodies they saw lying around. It was some big spectacle, right? So based on the trailer for MaXXXine, I assumed it was some sort of satanic ritual involving MaXXXine and Pearl. The ways Pearl and her husband talk about the group of filmmakers also gave me sort of a Get Out vibe. So the theory I came up with was that they were like hundreds of years old, and when they get just a little too old, they get excited when a group of youngins come in, and then they do some sort of like satanic ritual and steal their bodies. So my guess was that in MaXXXine, at least in the trailers for it, MaXXXine is actually Pearl, which is why she becomes a killer when she's not actually a killer in X. But no, Pearl is just a normal, old, crazy lady, and she has no connection to MaXXXine, which is really odd. So like I said, now I'm just really confused. What is going on in MaXXXine that so heavily implies she's the killer? Or even like a very dangerous individual or something, when in this movie, she's not a damsel in distress, but she is just a normal girl who escapes a horrible horror movie situation. Furthermore, if there's not really a connection besides this theme of youth and aging and sexuality and whatever, why cast Mia Goth as both MaXXXine and Pearl? Because I feel like you're kind of forcing the audience to see a connection between the two, when it's really only there thematically, and barely thematically at that. Adding on to that, I had a really hard time picking out a specific theme from the movie. I really enjoyed the first hour or so of the movie when there's no horror movie shenanigans going on. We're just following a group of eccentric characters filming a project at a spooky location. It felt like a true ensemble film with no real central character, just a group of characters you either love or love to hate, with all their wacky, silly personalities. Sure, the movie opens on MaXXXine, and she gets a little extra focus in the beginning, but that kind of quickly fades away, and it, like I said, really just becomes a true ensemble. And while the movie feels a little directionless, I wouldn't exactly say I was bored during this part. It really is just fun getting to hang out with this group of eccentric characters while they work on their fun little project. And then when the killings do start, it kind of feels like we're speedrunning them because we are. There's only like 30 minutes left in the movie. And on top of that, these killing speedruns don't really feel like they're furthering a plot or a message. It's kind of just Pearl on a rampage alongside her husband. But sure, we're following Pearl, who's, old as hell and yearning for her days as a young, beautiful woman, as she picks off all the characters one by sort of luring them in as an unsuspecting old lady. It's interesting, but the story is not really there. I would especially like to highlight the final standoff between MaXXXine and Pearl when MaXXXine repeats the line for like the second or third time, "I will not accept the life I do not deserve," because it doesn't feel like there's any sort of emotional or thematic standoff going on. It literally just is Pearl versus MaXXXine, and MaXXXine is just dropping a bar. The line about not accepting a life you don't deserve doesn't feel like it has any thematic resonance throughout the film either. Sure, MaXXXine's working on the project, hoping to launch her film career, or at least gain riches, but when was she accepting a life she doesn't deserve, and what does that really have to do with, I guess, getting shot by a crazy old lady? Is she not accepting she's going to get shot? I don't know, it doesn't really work. And it especially has nothing to do with anything going on with Pearl and the youth and the beauty and all that stuff. I'm willing to admit there probably are bigger themes here about beauty and youth and sexuality and promiscuity, all that sort of stuff, that I'm not getting because I'm a young fella who lacks life experience. But the fact I can't even put my finger on a specific theme means I'm not really trusting that the movie delivered whatever that theme might be very well. Although I would like to add on a positive note that X is a great example of how to build tension throughout your kills in a slasher movie. This is something I talked about a lot in my In a Violent Nature review, where the kills and the level of gore and violence and suspense and all that was sort of all over the place, meaning that when you got deeper into the movie, some of the kills just really lacked impact because they were really weak compared to what came before. But in X, it does not have that problem at all. The first kill being on the director, who dies by getting, knifed by Pearl, is very small scale, but it's still really intense and graphic, so it builds a sense of suspense and tension about what Pearl might be capable of and what she's going to do to the rest of the cast. The crocodile kill was fairly obvious, especially once they got down to the dock, but at the same time, it still kind of caught me off guard because of how long it was and how brutal it was. Like, that was really fun to watch, and it did make me, gasp a little bit. I mean, the thing just went right for her head. That was crazy. The eyeball wombo combo move was probably my least favorite of all the kills. I don't know, it was just a little quick, didn't really feel all that much, and that being the thing that the cops find in the barn at the start of the movie really felt like a horrible payoff because it's not really any crazier than any of the other bodies that they found based on how all the other kills went. It just seems a little strange that they focused so specifically on that in the intro when it wasn't anything all that different. I also have to add that Jenna Ortega getting fucking quickscoped the second she stepped out the front door was hilarious. I laughed really hard when that happened, I can't lie. Jackson's death actually caught me off guard the most. I was expecting him, based on his Marine training, to actually find Pearl and then die by, thinking she's like a frail old lady and her getting the drop on him like she was doing before. But no, he just gets quickscoped by Howard. I mean, that really caught me off guard. And the ending reveal that MaXXXine is the daughter of the fourth wall breaking pastor narrator we've been following this whole time was really, really cool in the moment and was a great way to end the movie. But then when I stopped to think about it for more than 2 seconds during the credits, I didn't really get the point. Yeah, sure, he's a very famous and very religious guy, and now she's an adult film star, and I just don't see the importance there. Okay, yeah, she strayed from the word of God. Whoa, crazy. And I think this example is the perfect way to encapsulate how I feel about X. Sure, the reveal was really cool and stylish, but then when I stopped to think about it, I struggled to find deeper meaning. It feels like X is mostly just style over substance, but in this case, the style is so good and the characters are so engaging that I don't really care that I can't find deeper meaning. I think it's just going to mean that X is probably not going to have the cultural staying power its technical quality deserves. I would give X a solid 3.5 stars. Not something I'm really jumping to rewatch in full, but something that's going to stay in the back of my mind for a little while and that I would definitely go watch some YouTube clips of every once in a while. I'm just so curious to go watch Pearl now and see if it clarifies anything about the MaXXXine-Pearl connection. I'm not really holding out hope for that, I might be expecting too much, but either way, I'm excited to watch it, and this has just left me even more excited to go see MaXXXine. Now that I've seen how hard this team can cook from a presentation perspective, I only have higher hopes for MaXXXine, especially because it looks like they're at least attempting a lot more with the story based off their trailer.
2 days later.
Okay, so I've now watched Pearl, and honestly, I don't have too much to say about it. I'm going to keep this part of the video a lot more brief than the X section, because this is the first time I've watched a psychological horror movie that actually got to me on a psychological level, and I kind of don't like it for that. Pearl really is the kind of movie where you walk away just feeling awful. Not even in the way where you leave a movie like The Mist feeling awful, because you're engaged with the journey that the characters are on and you can kind of power through the really depressing ending. Here, you just feel like dog shit when it's over. I have to give writer-director T.I. West some credit here because, like I said, this has never happened to me before with a movie where I really respect it, but I just don't like watching it, especially during the second half. Call me Adam Warlock, because I I really don't enjoy the way that makes me feel, actually. So let's keep this nice and brief, but kind of thorough. I love the way that this movie opens almost like a Wizard of Oz parody, with the bright colors and the cheery font and music, and a young girl who just is looking for some whimsy and some wonder in her life. I mean, aren't we all? Besides knowing from X who Pearl grows up to be, you can tell that there's something in Mia Goth's performance to show you that something just under the surface of Pearl isn't quite right. She's just a little bit off. And the first half of the film, watching this bright and cheery character who has this dark undertone underneath slowly start to crack and pull away and reveal her inner darkness, was really interesting to watch. It's kind of like watching a character who's stuck in the wrong genre of film, and they just slowly get dragged down by the darkness both around and inside of them until they finally snap, and it's really great stuff. It's just a way of playing with the medium of film in a really unique way that I honestly can't say I've ever specifically seen before, and I hope to see it again sometime because it's a genius idea. Really great way to unsettle the audience. When Pearl finally does fully snap and take out her parents, it's gruesome and exhilarating, but a little bit weird. It's really the only main thing that the film is building to, Pearl finally taking out her parents, so I expected it to be the climax of the movie, but it only comes in about halfway. They also obviously set up that Pearl's gonna audition so she can hopefully become a big star, but you know she's not gonna get the role because, obviously, and before she goes to audition, she's already snapped and killed her parents, so it kind of makes the audition feel a lot less interesting. Once again, I really respect Mia Goth's performance. I mean, she absolutely loses her goddamn mind on that stage, but emotionally, they just kind of lost me by this point. So then the falling action of Pearl coming clean to her sister-in-law before finally axing her was just too damn long. Pearl is talking for forever, and the first half of the speech is really interesting. She drops a few additional bombshells that let you into even more information about her character, but by the time she finally comes clean about killing her parents, I was ready for the camera to whip around and show us the sister-in-law's reaction, but we still have a whole second half of the speech to get through. I also would have really loved to see more of Howard and Pearl's relationship by the end of the movie, because when he finally comes home, it feels like she's turned the tables on him, and now he's the one trapped there with her. But at the same time, Pearl's not a physically threatening force, she's just a crazy murderer because she manages to frequently get the drop on people. And Howard comes home from the war initially looking not too broken after you would imagine coming home from the World War would be like, but anyway. So it kind of makes me wonder why when he comes in and sees that crazy dinner table, he doesn't report her to the police, or at least wait a day or two and then sneak off and go report her or something. I need to know why he stays with her. I would have imagined he came home from the war broken and beaten, and when he saw that, he was just like, I don't know, Pearl was the only thing keeping me going through all that. I don't care that she's crazy, I gotta stay with her. Like, he wasn't in his right mind either, so they get to be in their wrong minds together. But like I said, he looks pretty okay coming home, weirdly enough, so it really makes me question why they're together. On another note, though, I would have to say after watching Pearl, I'm coming around more to the idea that Pearl and MaXXXine don't really need a plot-centric connection to each other. They're kind of just the same person spiritually. However, the brokenness and darkness that's inside Pearl doesn't really seem to be inside of MaXXXine, so that is part of the reason why I'm kind of confused about where the plot is going in MaXXXine, especially based off of those trailers, like I keep saying. I guess I'll find out tomorrow night when I go see it. Similar to X, Pearl is a movie where a lot of things work really well. The presentation, the characters, the acting, the cinematography, all of that is really top-notch stuff. I love watching a group of just really interesting and engaging characters going through a relatively simple plot. But Pearl just really didn't hold my attention all the way through. And honestly, Pearl is just such a fucked character that, like I said, by the end, it's really not enjoyable to watch anymore. It's kind of like suffering from success as a psychological horror movie, so it just makes me feel even more weird about my feelings about the movie, separate from how the movie is making me feel, if you get what I mean. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Pearl 3 stars, but this really is the type of movie where I totally understand why someone would give it 1 star or 5 stars. I just can't really figure out where exactly I land, and I enjoyed parts of it a lot, and I really didn't enjoy other parts of it. But overall, due to the technical quality, I'm gonna just have to settle at a firm 3 stars. It's pretty fair to say I've never seen a movie like it, and I don't necessarily want to see a movie like it again. So anyway guys, those are my thoughts on Pearl and MaXXXine after going in blind 2 years later before finally seeing MaXXXine. The first impressions of MaXXXine on Twitter at least have been a little bit rough, but the critic scores are pretty good, so I'm going to be going in with an open but positive attitude. And like I've said throughout this video, the presentation is really not the problem with these movies, so I have to imagine it's either going to be sink or swim with this more complex plot that they're shooting for. I think it goes without saying, I really hope they succeed, but either way, I'll be back in a little bit to let you guys know. So, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, I'd really appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, either on my thoughts about these movies, or what you thought about the movies yourself. Are you excited for MaXXXine? Are you going to see it? Do you disagree with my thoughts on X or Pearl? I don't know. Let me know. We'll talk about it in the comments. Either way, have a great day and keep it crispy.